let's do that. So here we go. Creating an artist statement. It'll be easy. I promise you. So after all of this is done, we hope to know what an artist statement is, why we need it, why it can be so hard to do, and how you can actually create it. And then Miss Judy Sledge is going to tell us how this thing actually works in real life. So let's start with this quote that I start with all my presentations, which is know thyself. And what this really is about is knowing who you are. That's what art is about, knowing yourself. And this artist statement is huge about knowing who you are and what your art is about. That's important to making this artist statement work for you. So the basic question, what is an artist statement? Simply, it's a description of your work. It's written in first person, and it is really about your current work. This is separate from your bio. Your bio is about you as an artist. The artist statement is about your artwork. It's a tool. It's used to communicate with people, not just artists, but financiers, curators, gallerists, all of those things. This artist statement changes. So after you do all this great work, after we go through this webinar and have this perfect artist statement, it's going to change again because your artwork changed. As your artwork changed, so does the artist statement. It's asked for all the time when you do call the artists, for galleries, curators, collectors, they're going to ask for this statement. And the funny part is that it's rarely read, but when it is read, it could be the difference in an opportunity or a missed opportunity. And why is this statement so important? We kind of led into that, but some really specific things is this artist statement allows you to control the narrative about your work, which is really important. If you do not write and control that narrative, then someone else will. And that's not what you want. You really want to be the one to speak and to give voice to your work. It is used in proposals and in grants and in all kinds of opportunities, call to artists when you are sending your proposals to galleries. So it's important to have that artist statement just for business purposes. Another reason is it actually helps you understand your work and how to express your work to others. A lot of times, those that are financing our work or those that are giving us opportunities may not speak art speak, or they might not speak in the visual language. And this, being able to translate your work into words is important because the people that you're talking to may not speak artese or art language or visual language. Another reason it's important is media. You know, a lot of bloggers or people that write articles or press releases, they'll go to your website or to your social media page and they will pick up and grab content from there and place it right into press releases and whatever. And great art statements, great bios can be the different, can make it like, yes, I'm going to write this because I got this content here, or no, I don't have great content on this artist. So the better that your art statement is for media purposes, the more likely it can be picked up easily and by more people. And the last reason why why we need this statement is buyers. Your art is a product, just like Tide is a product, it's a laundry product, Nike is a product, the shoes are a product. And there's stories behind these products, just like there's stories behind your art. So it's very important that, you know, this artist statement is there for buyers because they want a connection with you. And writing something that's good and bring people in with your artist statement can, again, be the difference in buying art or someone not buying art. So why is this so difficult to write an artist statement. One of the biggest reasons is we aren't writers, so it doesn't come natural to us to write these things. It's hard for some artists to explain their art in words, or they don't even know what to really write. And then the other part is, who am I writing this for? You know, so all of these questions are in our heads, and I think sometimes they become blockers to us creating these things. So I think the best way for us artists to attack an artist statement is the same way we do with our blank canvas. It's just clean your mind and let's start like this is a new painting or a new piece, okay? So these are the three things, ways I think we should start that artist statement. You brainstorm or research, you sketch it out like you would your painting or your next drawing or whatever, and then you actually create the artist statement or the piece. So thinking of it as a piece of art. So with the brainstorming, there's many, many ways you can do this, but these are the ones that I suggest. I like writing lists, so that's kind of the first place I go. Writing lists of words that kind of embody your artwork. It don't have to be fancy, just the things that come to your mind, and even statements that embody your artwork. Another way, if you're more of the sketching type or the drawing type or doodling type, I think mind maps are great for that. And actually my slide shows kind of a mind map on the left. You can use those as well as lists. Another way is to talk to your friends and actually record what comes out of that conversation. Sometimes just talking through your art can help you write out that artist statement. If you're new to the art world, you might not have write-ups and articles yet about yourself, but if you are, that's a great way to kind of pull from there to see how people speak about your art. But if you're new, you might want to find artists that you love, see write-ups about them, and see how people speak or write about their artwork. And then the last thing I have here is finding examples of artist statements and really look them over. I personally wouldn't do that until I really have done the work on myself, meaning doing the list, doing the statements and all that, because you don't want to pick up the voice from another artist statement and unfortunately put it into yours just because that's our minds work that way. So I think it's best to really know who you are first before you go and look at others' examples. And it's important in this brainstorming that you be honest and it really be about you. You're gonna probably gather way more information than you need to actually write this artist statement, but it's important. And here's an outline of the kind of information I feel that you should gather. And like I said, an artist statement is probably about 300, 350 words, a standard one. And so all of this won't go in there, but it's great to have. So an introduction to your body of work. If you had to introduce it in 2 sentences, what would that sound like? What would you write? Telling us why you created your work, the history behind the work that you create, what made you start it, those kind of things. Who's the audience that you're writing this for? Like maybe right now there's something specific you're writing it for a proposal or a gallery, or maybe not at all. And if it's not something at all, maybe it's just your, like I said, just your standard art statement, but know who you're writing it for. It kind of makes it easier. Where does your work fit within the scope of the world and the scope of the art world itself? Like knowing that helps you know not just who you are, but helps you in that writing. How does your work fit previous work? Like, is your work a continuation of some of the series that you did before? or is this like a new thing that you're veering off and doing something absolutely new? So those things are important. Discussing your technique and how it's important to your art creating or experience, and then what your philosophy in art is. I think all of it is a lot of information, but it helps you know who you are, and then it's going to help with that next step, which is sketching out this art statement. Like I said, a lot of us aren't natural writers. So just like you sketch, for me, I do gesture drawings even before I start painting. I still do it. After years and years and years, I still do it. And I'm suggesting that maybe if you're not comfortable with writing, that you should just do some writing, like a journal writing or something before you start, to kind of ease anxiety about doing this thing. Another thing I've seen people do is take an example of an art statement that they loved and kind of just mesh their information into it. I wouldn't let that be my final product, but it is a good way to kind of start. And know that you're going to create many, many drafts of this, and be okay with that. And as you create one draft after another, just like with our drawings and paintings and whatever you create, it's going to be more refined. And that's the whole point of this. Again, keep in mind who you're writing this for, because that helps in the development. And the very important thing is try not to go for perfection, but really for honesty about you. We've seen artist statements that are really like flowery in language, and it might be kind of jargonish. And I think there's this thing in our head as how an artist statement should look, have all of these academic type words and that kind of thing. If that's you, then yes. But if it's not you, then it should not be that. So after you do all this sketching and you're being honest about yourself, the next thing to do is really walk away from it. Let it breathe for a while. Because I'm pretty sure after drafting this several times, your brain is tired and you're tired of yourself. So walk away a day or two, whatever is best for you, and then come back and pull the best pieces out of all of this and really create that great artist statement. There are some do's and don'ts to this, of course, as with everything. Some do's with this artist statement is you only have 300 words, maybe less, most times less. So you want to get to the point. You want to be confident in that tone because you're talking about you and your art. So no one should know better than you, so be confident in it. Edit and proofread as much as possible. Give it to other people, but you can also use tools like Grammarly.com, and Microsoft Word's proofing process has gotten better. So I think you can even use that. Make sure you're clear, make sure you're specific in your work, and make sure that your writing matches your artwork. Like that's so important. The voices should match. So when you're writing, just make sure that what people see and what people read has a deep connection. We've already said this, base your statement on the audience or the opportunity that you're writing for, and really draw people into your world with your artist statement. And some don'ts, don't use art speak or cliches or jargon if you can help it, unless that's naturally how you speak. Be consistent in passive. If you're using first person like I, or that you continue with that kind of you don't use passive voice at all, because you shouldn't have to be passive about your work. Don't include anything that's unnecessary that would make you sound pretentious, unless you are pretentious. And this is not a place for you to include any biography information. That should be in your bio, not in your artist statement. And the last thing is, again, passive statements like I hope to, I will, I'm trying to, I think those things should not be in your artist statement. Um, I have a couple of examples here. I'm going to read, I have more than a couple, but I'm only going to read two maybe. This one is from Sam Durant. It says, my artwork takes a critical view of social, political, and cultural issues, often referencing American history. My work explores the varying relationships between popular culture and fine arts. I'm going to go down a little further. While I use a variety of materials and processes in each project, my methodology is consistent. Although there may not always be material similarities between the different projects, they are linked by recurring formal concerns and through the subject matter. And so Sam is very, very succinct and to the point in his artist statement. And I believe you're going to get a copy of this so you can read through it more thoroughly, but I just wanted you to hear his voice and his tone. Millie Wilson is more emotional in her writing. She says, I think of my installations as unfinished inventories of fragment objects, drawings, paintings, photographs, and other inventions. They are improvisational sites in which the construction and the ready-made are used to question our making of the world through language and knowledge. So both of these are artist statements, both very personal to the person and have different tones. So keep that in mind. And last, I kind of wanted to share some more famous artist statements. I have Grandma Moses here, which is very poetic. She says, I paint from the top down, from the sky, then the mountains, then the hills, then the houses, then the cattle, and then the people. I look out the window sometimes to seek the color of the shadows and the different greens in the trees. But when I get ready to paint, I just close my eyes and imagine a scene. So beautifully written. But Grandma Moses has a long history, and she has, and so she has this space or privilege to kind of write her artist statement in this way. And maybe one day we will all have that privilege. And one more here, Basquiat's, one of the shortest ones I've seen, but very to the point. I start a picture and I finish it. I don't think about art while I work. I try to think about life. So artist statements can go from one extreme to another, but the bottom line is they should be done, they have purpose, and they should totally be about you. So what's next? Like now, hopefully you take all of these things and you actually create a great standard artist statement, and you can share that. But know that you're going to need different versions of this for different audiences, depending on what you're using it for. So be okay with that you might have to revisit this a few times. Create an even shorter version that's maybe only 3 sentences, because we live in social media life and maybe 2 or 3 sentences is all that's needed. And again, keep it fresh because your artwork changes. So therefore this should be changing too. So I hope that information helps. And then Judy Sledge is going to take over and really tell us how all this really works in the real world. Judy?
Hi. Thank you, Donna. That was a great presentation. Very thorough, so everybody please hold on to it. I'm gonna just piggyback on that, but I'm going to address the young people, the people who are 14 years old, who probably never even heard of an artist statement. it sometimes when you start out, you just start out doing art. You don't even know what an artist statement is, a bio, an artist bio, or anything of that nature. And sometimes you can be doing art and never have been asked for one. So it's always good to start out with one. And don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. Approach it as if it's fun. Okay, an artist statement is just who you are. Think of it as trying to describe yourself or introducing yourself to someone as an artist. And trying to make them feel that they can visualize what you are or what you do. So it's just simple, and it should be fun. She mentioned walking away. When you get ready to write it, don't write it if you're under stress or if you're pressed or anything, or if you're in the middle of a project or you're rushing. Write it when you're relaxed, when you're just being yourself, and don't feel like it's something that you have to complete right away. So she also mentioned words. When you write the words down, try to pick words that you don't hear all the time that are associated with artists, like creative or natural, or, you know, just normal words that are associated that you would hear from an artist. Try to think of something that individualizes you, that speaks directly to who you are. And take your time, have fun with it. Do not be intimidated. That's the main thing. If I impart anything to you, do not be afraid of it. Because like she said, sometimes it's not even read at all. And for art shows, if they give it 20 seconds, you're doing good. So it's just something that goes along with your art, but it's a way to individualize yourself and grab attention to yourself. You know, when you write it, grab attention with that very first sentence. Make them interested. Donna mentioned that it's 300 words on the average, but for the young people, try starting with a 3-sentence one, just 3 sentences. You know, keep it short, grab attention, introduce yourself, hint about the why you do the artwork. Try to leave an impression. And as she said, remember who you're writing for, because what you're going to do, you're going to make a basic statement, and you're going to tweak that statement according to what you're applying to. So say if you're applying to an art show, you may have that statement one way, but if you're applying to something, as Donna's talking about, where there's money involved, you may want to, if you're applying for a grant or for a proposal or anything that where it's more technical, then you may need to tweak that statement to show more professionalism. It may be even just more traditionalism compared to like the first one she read compared to the last one she read. So art shows, gallery shows, museums, grants, like she said, they all may need a different one. It just may be tweaking of a sentence. But with what you start out with those basic 3 sentences of who, what, and why, you'll have the basis to expand or decrease. And if you can, review it. You know, write it, and she said edit, but just review it. And just, because what I did with my own personal one, I just wrote a bunch of stuff. I just wrote, you know, free writing. You just write, and then you come back and you deduct. You just take out, oh, that sounded kind of cool. I like that part. Use that part. And you don't have to use the rest of it, but make sure when you get to the end of it, it's you. It's you. It's you. I think that's the main thing that I wanted to say. And I'm going to read you one with 3 sentences. Now, the first one she started with had 2 paragraphs. The last one she ended with had 3 sentences, even though it looked like 1 sentence, but it was 3 things in that sentence. Okay, so this one is just a 3-sentence one that sounds lengthy, but it's not. And it says, getting outside is good for the soul. That's my attention grabber. Through my artwork, I try to bring the outside in. While I make no attempt to portray actual plants or animals, I do want my creations to look like they could have lived or grown somewhere. Living with beautiful objects that pay tribute to the natural world reminds us to slow down and helps us reconnect with nature. So it's kind of just basic about what she does with her artwork. And it could be that simple. It could be that simple. As you grow as an artist, so will your work grow, so will your soul grow. And you'll be able to put more into your writing. You'll be able to say, well, you know, I used to do this, but now I do a little bit more. I added another layer to my artwork. I added a little bit more from my being as an artist. So young people, be encouraged. Don't be intimidated. Shout out for help if you need help. And just take it not as an assignment, but as something that enhances you, something that's truly you. And you can reach out to Donna or myself if you want additional help. Thank you.
All right. Those are 2 great suggestions on how to get going on your artist statement. I should note that I spent a big chunk of my career as an editor at mostly newspapers, and I can tell you I've edited a lot of people's work, a lot of non-professional writers' work, and I often cite Ernest Hemingway. The first draft of anything is shit. Forgive my language, but that's what he said. So don't be afraid to, you know, write the first one down and then go through it and re-edit and edit again and look at it again over multiple days. We have the time right now, so we should take it. You both talked about putting your why into the artist statement. Tell us about why that's important to have the why you make art, or the why in the statement.
Judy, you want to go first?
Yeah. It's kind of just basic. If you're doing things from the heart, and if it's important to you, there's a why to it. You know, there's a why to, some people may do something, landscapes, and other people make beads or jewelry. It's who you are, and it's really what motivates you to do what you do. So it could be something as simple as, you know, when I was a young man, I loved to play with trains. So now here I am, I'm a woodworker and I build trains. It's just what makes you do what you do.
I agree with Judy. I think people want to know the story behind the product or behind the art, right? And just seeing the art without knowing that person or why they created it, it feels like something's missing. And I feel like the why really does help you understand why this thing exists, why I should look at it, why this person even got from a blank canvas or the clay to this beautiful statue or this piece of art. I think it's the quintessential question of why art is, why anything, you know? So yeah, it must be part of the art statement because it's part of life. We're asking why all the time. Why? My 2-year-old nephew is always asking why. So we keep doing it the rest of our lives, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, another question. So artist statements always need to be in first person, because we've seen them both ways. We've seen them in third person as well.
Go ahead, Judy.
Donna.
Oh, you want
Oh,
me to do it?
yeah.
Yeah, from because it's a personal statement, it should be in the first person. I have seen them in third person, and I think it's because of whatever type of standard of format that's being asked. But in general, they are written in first person. So if you're writing this, I would start my standard one in first person. And if someone asked for it in third person, then make that change. But I would always start in first person.
I would too. And I don't know how you can be so personal without being in first person. I have done one in first person and had someone change it to third person, which I thought was awfully strange. But I'm going to agree with Donna is that it may be something that they're looking for that's different than the standard.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about if your work is very eclectic? You do a wide variety of things. Can you cover that in one artist statement, or do you need two or three? One maybe for your nature and florals, and one for your other body of work. What do you think about that?
I could probably speak to that because I do a plethora of different things. And so I have a standard introduction of me and why I create art. And then for each body, whether it be um, video, because I do that, or whether it be painting and illustration, I will use that. I will add that to the standard part of just introducing me. Um, and it depends on who's asking for it. So that will depend on which body of work I am sharing with them. Now, sometimes they want to know about everything I'm doing, and in that respect, I have these short statements about each of the bodies of work that I am developing at that time. But I still try to keep it short and sweet regardless. So you can't tell your whole life story in 300 words. You can't tell it in 3 million. So it's best to just learn how to be succinct. And I think that sketching process, that writing over and over again, it's going to help you get more and more succinct with it, even if you are in different mediums and in different types of series or different types of work.
And that's what I meant when I said that there's a basic statement. You know, there's a basic statement of who she is as an artist, and she tweaks that to the different media. So that's a good example of what I meant.
Great, great. What if you're writing an artist statement for a large grant? How much do you need to take the why of the grant and the details of what the grant makers are seeking to do, and somehow, some way reflect that in your artist statement? Talk a little about that, of tailoring it for something that could bring you a 25,000 or 30,000 amount of money.
Yeah. I know it's something that you find yourself doing. And sometimes I find that I'm on this line of where I want to stay true to me in that voice. And sometimes the grant is asking for something that may not be true to me. And you really have to, bottom line, be true to you. Like if your truth is, I need my narrative to be this because this is what I am, or your truth is, this $25,000 is my truth, and so I'm gonna change this to get that.
Yeah.
That's really, really it. As I started, know thyself, it even goes with that. Like if you know that your whole goal is that 25,000 grant, you're gonna do whatever you need to do to get that. If that means changing your artist statement to fit what they're asking for, and you feel comfortable in doing that, then by all means do. But for me, my voice is all I was brought into this world with, and probably the only thing I'd be able to leave out with, and I want to keep it. So.
And the other thing is pay attention to the grant.
Mm-hmm.
Many grants that you go through, you may not want to apply to that particular grant, or they may have restrictions that don't fit you.
Mm-hmm.
And they will pretty much ask for what they're looking for, but pay attention to the grant, even when it comes to the artist statement itself, because they may have a minimum on the words. You know, like she said, 300 words is an average. An application may have a minimum, and they may pick up information from you other ways throughout that grant. So just pay attention to that grant and make sure you know the requirements.
Cool, thank you. Another question, if you do something very specific, such as using unusual or odd materials or processes, does that belong in your artist statement?
I think it totally should, because
Absolutely.
yeah, because I mean, if that's just a strong part of what makes your art unique, that should be in that artist statement for sure. Like as a painter, I mean, people in general understand paint, you know, and they could, even if you didn't, I mean, you could totally describe paint and texture and vibrancy and all of that, but you don't, but if you're using something that is so unique that people are like, what? You, it has to be in there because one, it's a attention grabber. And two, I mean, how can you not explain? You can't explain your art without it, right? So yeah, it has to be in there somehow.
Yeah.
That's ideal for an artist statement.
Yeah, I agree.
Good, good. Thank you. Are there any other questions from our audience today? Please.
Can I say something about one thing Judy said about intimidation? And I feel that is such a huge part of why we as artists have a hard time writing those things. It's not an intimidation thing because you know it's not it's something that is going to open or maybe close doors. So if we could get away from the intimidation of this and really have the fun that Judy talked about, I think that's a big leap in making a great artist statement, as if we can remove ourselves from the intimidation, the fear, and have fun. So I thought that was a great suggestion for us.
Yes, yes. I have a suggestion as well. I think if you really, really are not a writer and writing is not something you want to do, it is fine for you to start the process and then find somebody in your circle who is a writer or editor and, you know, ask them to finish it for you. Offer them a sketch or a small piece of art in exchange for helping you really, you know, hone it in. Make sure it's still yours and it still reflects you. But I know a lot of visual artists who it's worse than going to the dentist to have to sit down and write. So, you know, find somebody who will help you with that process and who gets you. Maybe one of your collectors, maybe somebody on your you know, from your sorority, from your Facebook friends. But there's a lot of people who, especially right now, have a lot of extra time. So don't be afraid to ask somebody for help, either in the writing or in the editing of your artist statements.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank Donna and Judy and our audience.
Thank you.
I think we're gonna, we have some upcoming workshops, and Mark, do you want to put up that slide? And we have, I think, a couple coming up next week. And if you would, please complete our survey to let us know what you thought of this. And please sign up for the next one of the next surveys, next workshop, and check out Artist Guild's cards. All right. Thank you everybody for
Thank you guys.
participation, and we hope you stay healthy, stay safe, and stay creative.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Okay. Good. Well done. Yeah, and I think we had a few of our young artists on too. So that was fun.
Good.
Yes.
Good, good, good. I think it went well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a good idea you had about helping someone help you write it. Because some people are just not going to write. They're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
So that's a good idea too.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I have artists who would love for me to do it. I did help some artists with like their Kresge and a few other things, but yeah,
You should make them pay you, especially when Kresge comes.
I'm from now on I have to. I volunteer.
Yeah, make them pay you because they'd be glad to pay you, Vicki.
Yeah. Even in
Yeah.
art. Yeah, sometimes just pay me in art, that'd be fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
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 I know.
That's one way to collect.
I know. Well, we want to help artists to thrive, and I did last time for free, and next time I said to myself, because it takes a lot of time at Kresge.
Yeah, and you're a professional writer. That's not like me helping them. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to sign off. Okay.
Right.
Take care. Bye-bye.